Hello, everyone. Let us talk about Olivia Wilde's second feature as director, Don't Worry, Darling. To kick this off, before I get into my review, a very brief, spoiler-free synopsis of the film for you. The movie stars Florence Pugh as Alice, a woman living with her husband Jack, played by Harry Styles, in a town called Victory. While life there may seem like the perfect existence initially, Alice soon becomes suspicious of what might really be going on behind closed doors in this seemingly picture-perfect neighborhood. A lot of you are very well aware of how much I loved Booksmart, so I went into this film with some especially high hopes for Wilde's work behind the lens, I'll admit, but it's clearly a much bigger and very ambitious film, and while I do think Wilde still shows great promise as a director in some respects, ultimately, I must admit, Don't Worry, Darling winds up feeling like a little bit of a hollow missed opportunity. But first here, before I get to that, the good. Matthew Libatique is just one of the absolute best of the best cinematographers out there, and the Don't Worry, Darling setting and premise really calls for a DP who's able to create this intoxicating imagery, and with the help of exceptional production design and costume design here, Libatique very much accomplishes that. In fact, I think he goes above and beyond in that respect. Next up for the good, the best performance of the bunch by far is Florence Pugh. You don't need me to tell you that she is an absolute powerhouse, but I do have to bring it up here because it is just on display and in your face in every single scene of the film that she's in, which is a lot. Whether it is the joy of thinking that she scored the life of her dreams or the weight of realizing that everything is not as it seems, Pugh just consumes you with Alice's emotions from start to finish. And I think that's something that this movie desperately needed, because beyond the inner struggle that Pugh is able to convey via her performance alone, Don't Worry, Darling kind of stops short when exploring the deeper layers in its really curious premise. So when it comes to the rest of the cast here, there really isn't a single poor performance in this entire movie, but the script just doesn't really serve any of the other characters especially well. One of Don't Worry, Darling's biggest flaws, in my book at least, is that kind of obliterates the value of its premise. It's largely a surface-level exploration of what's really going on in Victory, and that's a pretty big disappointment in the end when you realize what's really going on, and all of a sudden, so many curious ideas of this world just pop up, but then there's no running time dedicated to exploring them after. For example, a couple of key supporting characters make some really big decisions at the very end of the movie, but they don't really mean all that much when you can't see the aftermath, and also when you have absolutely no understanding of how they wound up where we find them in the first place. So I found that a little unfortunate. Backing up a bit, though, I just jumped into the ending, I do have to say that the mystery overall is pretty compelling, and the eagerness to know what was really going on in this town was quite strong for me. Don't Worry, Darling does have some lulls in exploring that, a number of scenes that, the pace noticeably slows in, but never to the point where the story lost me. That is, of course, until the end. And while I don't want to go as far to say a bad ending ruined all of the good that came before it, here, I think it kind of does to a degree. This is the type of movie where I really want to be able to tell you, when I watch it again, knowing where the story ends, it'll get stronger because I'll find new details that I missed the first time around, and I'll be viewing things through a new lens, and, yeah, maybe that can still happen, and I'll probably keep an open mind, rewatch it, and find out for myself. But if I were to guess whether or not that would be the case right now after one viewing, I'd probably guess a no. So now, I am not the biggest fan of using this particular descriptor, and also don't want to use it in a way that implies that it was the filmmaker's intentions, but ultimately, Don't Worry, Darling feels like a style over substance situation to me, and it is an end result that I think was kind of unavoidable due to how stunning those frames are in this movie, and also how it feels like the story is just stopped short once the reveal happens without really adding anything to the conversation or the themes that this story is tapping into. All right, let's score this one. I'm going to give Don't Worry, Darling 2.5 Deweys out of 5 on the Dewey Decimovie scale. It's not the greatest score right there, but it's not a terrible movie by any means. But again, with how enthusiastic I was about Booksmart, I really was hoping for more from this movie. And, yeah, I was quite disappointed in it when it ended. And what's even more unfortunate to me here is that it really feels like the more that I wanted was there. It's almost like the script spends so much time building to the reveal of the truth of its high concept that it doesn't leave any time at all to actually explore why that high concept is interesting. And, if you don't do that, then I guess what's the point? Or at least that's how I was left feeling after experiencing Don't Worry, Darling in its entirety. That is where I'm leaving you on this one. If and when you check the movie out, hit that comment section below. I would love to know what you think as well. Before I leave you, it is Patreon shout-out time. This is a wonderful group that includes Logan, Nathan, Luke, Ian, Billy, Neil, Patrick, Matthew, and Michael. All top-tier members right there. Longtime members across the board that I greatly appreciate, love having in the Slack community. I hope you all know how highly I think of you. Thank you so much for being here, for being part of the Patreon campaign, and a big thanks to everybody out there for watching this review. You should know what to do by now. Like and share this one before you leave, and stay tuned. Got another one coming for you, maybe in a couple days, but it's a big one, I promise. Stay tuned.